Adriana Agassi. Imagine this. You walk into a mall, and on your right, you see a camera flash. On your left, you smell 5 different scents from the perfume shop. And all around you, there are sounds like shouting, laughing, and crying. Sounds like quite the sensory overload, doesn't it? Well, this is what it's like for an individual with autism spectrum disorder. According to Autism Speaks, an organization dedicated to autism research and advocacy, autism spectrum disorder, or ASD for short, is an umbrella term that is characterized by difficulties in social interaction, communication, and repetitive behaviors. Today I am going to share about the prevalence, the cause and diagnosis of, and the symptoms related to autism spectrum disorder. First, I will address the prevalence of autism spectrum disorder. According to a 2012 study done by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, 1 in 68 individuals in the U.S. is diagnosed with ASD. According to the same study, 1 in 42 boys and 1 in 189 girls are diagnosed with ASD. Autism does not appear to be more prevalent in one race over another. There are individuals from all different races and social classes that have been diagnosed with this disorder. Now that I have talked about autism spectrum disorder and its prevalence, I will share about the causes of autism spectrum disorder and how it is diagnosed. There is no known cause of ASD, however, there are some risk factors that are involved. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, genetics and the environment play a crucial role in diagnosing ASD. Being born early, having a low birth weight, and having siblings who also have ASD gives you a greater chance of getting ASD. Doctors are usually the ones to diagnose ASD, and according to the National Institute of Mental Health, screening is looked for at routine visits. According to the Autism Speaks researchers, doctors look to see if children are hitting all of their developmental milestones. Though diagnosis can happen at the age of 2, it is more realistic for diagnosis to occur by the age of 3 or 4. Sometimes children are diagnosed with ASD when they start school and teachers see that they have communication and social deficits. It's more difficult to diagnose adults with ASD because some of the symptoms are similar to other mental health disorders. So far I have talked about the prevalence and the cause and diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. Last, I will talk about the symptoms associated with the ASD. The National Institute of Mental Health explains how individuals with ASD may engage in repetitive behaviors such as hand flapping, spinning, rocking back and forth, and lining or stacking up different objects. Some of these can be considered self-stimulating behaviors, which means that it is satisfaction for the individual. For example, one of the children that my family fostered would repeatedly move his hands and fingers in front of his face, and then he would laugh and jump around. The CDC describes one symptom, saying that individuals may have trouble adapting to their environment and get upset when their routine changes. Individuals with ASD are very regimented and like to stick to a schedule. For example, the foster child that we had would get ready for school even when he was on school break. He would put on his shoes, get his backpack, and stand at the door. When he wouldn't see his bus come, he would get upset and agitated and cry. Another symptom that the CDC mentioned was that individuals with ASD sometimes react differently to the way that things smell, taste, sound, look, or feel. Sometimes even to the point of it being disabling. For example, one student that I worked with did not like milk. So at lunch, he wouldn't sit with his classmates at the table because he didn't like seeing the milk or the string cheese at the table. He sat at a separate desk. Some individuals with ASD are very smart and have exceptional memories. The CDC reports that 46% of individuals with ASD have an above average intelligence. I can recall one student that I worked with who would remember different dates from all over the different years. And when the teacher and I were talking about our SBAC testing schedule, we couldn't remember when we started, but she chimed in and told us the exact date that we started. To conclude, I have talked about the autism spectrum disorder and the prevalence, the causes and diagnosis, and the different symptoms involved with this disorder. Each and every day, individuals with autism spectrum disorder face moments of sensory overload with sights, smells, and sounds around them. I hope that what I've talked about today will help you understand ASD a little better.